And if you're able to see the screen here, I'm going to be sharing a number of things, but I'm not going to be the only one sharing, as this has to be a multifaceted, multi-inclusive discussion in order for any impact to really be made. So this morning, you'll be hearing from myself. You'll be hearing from Christine Santisteban regarding stopping Asian hate, and our fearless producer, John Henry Watson, will be speaking with us again, also in closing. What I'd like to begin with is, here we go, the verdict. We cannot be in Minnesota without feeling the weight of what happened regarding the murder of George Floyd. There were people who were saying that the verdict. Let me back up and cover that. As we were talking, we know that Derek Chauvin was convicted and is currently in jail for the murder of George Floyd. That deserves a round of applause. I'm telling you, absolutely. One of the essential pieces of evidence that was used in his conviction was the video that was filmed by Darnella Frazier. And people were saying that the video was the reason that Derek Chauvin was convicted. And we covered last year that that statement has some truth and some falsehood at the same time. And here are the points. It is true in the sense that the jury was objective and they considered the video as evidence as they were instructed to. The reason that this video is so important is that it stopped the Minneapolis Police Department from claiming that George Floyd's death was a medical incident that he experienced while in custody. With that video capturing Derek Chauvin's handling of the situation, the Minneapolis police could not say that it was just a medical incident. There was proof that there was some things that were done incorrectly. And that's the reason that that video is important. What Derek Chauvin's defense is trying to assert was that the video evoked the swell of the Black Lives Matter movement, and he was only convicted because of the public popular opinion, and that the conviction wasn't necessarily a matter of legal incidents, but only because everybody in the world was talking about it. That's why he was convicted, which is a complete falsehood. So we covered the idea that the importance of the video was that it stopped the Minneapolis Police Department from declaring that George Floyd's death was a medical incident. There's no way they could cover up what had happened. And this was one of the tweets that went, that was posted from a headline in Australia. The murderer who got caught committing murder on video was found guilty of murder. Completely apropos. But as believable as his conviction was in some facets, there were still other people who didn't believe that he was convicted. It was shocking. There were many Black people who were still shocked that even with the overwhelming evidence of Derek Chauvin's wrong, that he was still convicted. Now that shouldn't make sense if everything was fair and legal the way that we're always told that it is. But the shock came because there were plenty of documented incidences where there was evidence against the police, but the police were either acquitted or they were reprimanded with very, very limited processes. So there was nothing really done about the bad things that happened. Either nothing was done or very little was done. So now we have this video of Derek Chauvin in the process of murdering George Floyd. There were still people who believed that he would get away with it. There were people who believed that Derek Chauvin would be acquitted of George Floyd's murder, even in the presence of the video. And that is why they were shocked that he was convicted, because we look at the instance, of course, with Rodney King, there were police on tape who did awful things. And was it 4 out of 5 of them that were acquitted? And then the 5th one received very limited, punishment, if we're calling it that. What we want to talk about today is why that happens. And we introduce the notion of critical race theory, because critical race theory provides a framework wherein that answer can be explored. This is a lengthy slide, but I think it's important that we go through all of these premises right here. From last year's guiding documents, the definition of critical race theory is that critical race theory is not a diversity and inclusion training, but it is a practice of integrating the role of race and racism in society that emerged in the last legal academy and spread to other fields in scholarship. It critiques how the social construction of race and institutionalized racism perpetuate a racial caste system that regulates people of color to the bottom tiers. In other words, CRT explores the practices in hiring, education, real estate, and many other industries to show how race has played a factor in the outcomes that are said to be fair and equal. For example, society has accepted that resumes of men of color can be targeted or discarded due to their names, which are often seen before any other qualifications. CRT is the instrument through which this phenomenon is revealed. It seeks to answer the question, how does racism still manifest in structures and systems that claim to be legally fair? In short, this is what we could take away to have these discussions on our own. CRT answers, how does race play a factor in outcomes that are said to be fair and equal? As some other examples, we look at how commonly race does play a factor in things that are supposed to be fair and equal. Is everyone familiar with what redlining is? Redlining is the process by which particular banks would draw red lines around districts and communities that had majority populations of minorities. And it's in those communities where mortgage applications would be denied. And that would disable the home ownership of people of color in those communities. This is so commonplace that everybody knows what it is, regardless of their own professional industry. Another example that is as common is gerrymandering. And I think I lost the command here. Here we go. Yes, gerrymandering. What is gerrymandering? It is the exact same premise as redlining applied to districts for political reasons. Every so often, political districts are redrawn. The borders of those districts are redrawn to minimize the impact of the voting minority in those areas. Excuse us 1 second for technical difficulty.
It's okay. Yeah, let me just get this going. Sorry. It seems to be still going. So if you talk, we'll fix this.
Okay. But gerrymandering is another example of a CRT exploit premise that gets to the issue of how race still impacts outcomes that are supposed to be fair and legal. Everyone is supposed to be able to vote, but if the power of that vote is minimized by strategic action, then race is a factor when it doesn't look like it is on the surface. With redlining, everyone is supposed to be able to buy a home if they can financially qualify for it. But when the financial qualifications are limited and restricted because of that person's race, then race has absolutely played a factor, even though the outcomes are supposed to be fair and legal. While we're working on this, I'll just continue here. The next point was real estate appraisers. There have been so many instances of when a Black person was trying to sell their homes that their appraisal value would be significantly lower than it would be if someone white appeared to be the owner of that home. I know friends personally that their appraisers have told them, if you want to sell your house, take down any Black art, take down any of your family pictures, take down anything that indicates that the owner of this home is Black, because there will be people who will walk in, see that picture, and walk out. It did not matter what the value of the home was, but because they believed that a Black person owned that home, it would be valued lower, or they wouldn't, the potential buyers wouldn't consider it any further. And there are several instances that we'll also look at through the course of the information. And as we are back up, we talked a little bit about the voting actions, but the new voting actions that have been legislated since in the last year or so, where we look specifically at Georgia, who was with surgical precision crafting its way around the power of the vote of the minority. And that is just one example that we've seen nationally. How many other ways is this type of thing happening in smaller communities and smaller political districts that we don't know about? CRT addresses these questions and answers how they happen, why they happen, and what can we do to change it. And the wage gap concerns, that's another example where white people and Black people who do have the same job, the white person is paid substantially more than the Black person for doing the same work, or they're promoted faster, or they're promoted with less experience than the Black person. Things like that happen regularly in systems that are still supposed to be fair and legal. This is a perfect example of why this has been continuing for as long as it has, because racism in certain presentations is very easy to hide. With Brian Flores of the NFL, who all is familiar with that circumstance? Okay, he is a coach, and he was supposed to be, for a lack of a better way, a simpler way to explain it, he was supposed to be considered for a promotion. And his name is Brian, of course. The person who was ultimately making the decision had another Brian in consideration as well. That Brian was white. Brian Flores got the text from the person who was going to make the decision. Your interview is tomorrow. Congratulations on the job, pretty much. So this shows us that Brian Flores was the Black candidate who was going to be interviewed, but the job had already been unofficially promised to somebody white. The only way we knew about that is that Roger Goodell is the NFL chief. I don't know his exact title, and I'm not sure if he was the one who sent the text, but the text that went to the white person who was supposed to get the job went to the Black person who was also interviewing for it. And that's how we saw that this is one instance of racism that goes on in the NFL. This interview process was supposed to be fair and legal. They were supposed to make sure that they interviewed Black candidates, and they had a Black candidate they were going to interview, but apparently all of that was just for show because the job had been promised to somebody white. Critical race theory addresses these issues, and we talked about Black sounding names. This blue box here is very important. Factually, there is a difference between race and ethnicity. But for this discussion, most uses of the word race include ethnic considerations. Now, what that means in short is this. Many people think that race and ethnicity are the same. They are not. Your ethnicity is your biological lineage. I've tried to say your genealogy, but it's your biological lineage. If you are African American, that is an ethnicity. If you are European American, that is an ethnicity. African-American blood can save a European-American life in a hospital trauma situation. In that way, all people are equal. We understand this. Race is a social caste system that presents a hierarchy for the ethnicities, and that is the difference. As we were saying, for this discussion, the word race will include ethnic considerations, but there is a factual difference. These are examples of how CRT is prevalent. We talked about the home ownership situation where a Black person wanted to sell a house and they got it appraised for a much lower amount when the appraiser thought that the owner was Black. And then they asked one of their white friends to pretend like they owned the house, and then it was appraised for almost 20 to 23% more than what it was when they thought that a Black person owned it. And this is just some other examples. Kyle Rittenhouse will be branded as a sole gunman by himself, but if he had been Black, brandishing a gun in the condition that he was, the entire Black Lives Matter movement would have been branded as criminals, thugs, whatever bad thing that would be said about it, while he stands alone as the person that is responsible for these actions. Critical race theory addresses why these things happen. And I'm trying to move through here. The point that I want to really articulate at this time is that racism is not a happenstance of factors. It is a very deliberate set of actions for a prescribed outcome. The redlining is deliberate to prevent Black homeownership. The gerrymandering is deliberate to prevent the political power in certain districts and the authority of the vote in those areas. And some examples of what we can look at are how this is deliberate. The documentary, The 13th, follows how the 13th Amendment, there's a clause in the 13th Amendment that says slavery is abolished except as punishment for a crime. That's in the 13th Amendment, and that clause has been exploited to create circumstances that make Black people criminals under circumstances that would not criminalize somebody white. Exterminate the Brutes shows how racism follows that same track throughout all the world. So these are definitely two things in the resources that we need to look at for later if we want more information on these topics. A lot of people like to say that that's past, move on, forget about it, etc. It's over with. But Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks, their lives intersected. They lived at the same time. So it wasn't as far long ago as people like to distance themselves from it to absolve themselves from the responsibility of doing anything. Rosa Parks just died in 2005. And we understand the significance of what history reports her actions to be. And she died as recently as 2005. So this is not some long ago past situation that we don't deserve to give proper credence to at this point, because that wasn't this long ago. And that's some more examples. There are people who have either themselves or their parents were alive when segregation was active, when segregation was legal in that sense. And this is interesting. There are people who believe that Black people can't work together or that they can't work with other races. That is inherently false. It serves as a part of the dehumanization efforts that cast aspersions on Black people. Everybody's heard about Black Wall Street. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black businesses and homes were demolished, not just by rioters on the street, but there were bombs that were dropped on these businesses because it was an affluent Black community. And there were some white people who decided that that was not acceptable. And this Black community was destroyed. We also know about Rosewood, Florida, where it was a Black community that was thriving and growing and building. And there was a white woman in a neighboring community who said that a Black man raped her. And the white people in her community decided to seek their own form of justice. in Rosewood, Florida was demolished. There were a number of deaths, there were homes destroyed, set on fires, and things of that sort, all for this perpetuated lie that she told. We also know about Seneca Village. Has anybody heard of that? Yes. Seneca Village was a thriving Black community, and there were other immigrants there as well, I think particularly Irish, but there were homeowners and businesses and everything until a group of white people decided that this community of minorities that are succeeding cannot stand. Those beautiful houses and homes and communities were literally bulldozed in order to reclaim that land that they had purchased and turned into Central Park, which has somehow become a staple in New York. And nobody really asks what was on this land before it was Central Park. Seneca Village was there. So the idea that Black people cannot work together is false. They can. Normally when we do, our efforts are thwarted by those who would prefer that we don't. These we might have heard about. But what about these messengers? So many times, Black people have attained success. They've attained wealth. They've attained land and property, but it was destroyed by those who felt we were undeserving. Racism is not a happenstance. It is a deliberate set of actions. And CRT asks the question, why? And what can we do to get out from around that? And I think at this time, I want to give you the final point at this moment. CRT does not teach hate. It teaches awareness. And this is different because the people don't want you to understand these things, would have you believe that CRT teaches hate so that you're automatically turned off from it and not able to make the better decisions that you'd be equipped to if you knew what was really going on. And with that for the moment, I'd like to invite Christine up. Can we give Raven another hand? Hi, just bear with us. Put up some more slides. Oh, I'm going to introduce myself. Hi, everybody. Good morning, JemCon family. I'm Christine Sanchez-Sabat, and I've been a fellow JemConner since about 2014. And here to talk today about something that pretty hit very close to home, and I'll share a little bit more about that. But I started sharing about this last year with some really close friends and neighbors who were affected by this issue. But the slides are up. And we're going to talk today about stopping Asian hate. We're still having to talk about this still. A lot of this just culminated just a little over a year ago. I'd just like to take a moment to honor folks that were killed in Atlanta, the Atlanta splash shooting on March the 16th. Just take a moment. I'm going to read their names and we can honor them. Delana Ashley Young.
Shao Zhe Tang, Dao Yu Feng, Paul Andre Michaels, Gracias Hernandez Ortiz, Myung Young Grant, Sun Chung Park, Sun Chai Kim, Young Ai Hyo, Thank you for taking a moment of silence. I shared this slide last year just to drive home the point that anti-Asian racism and hate is nothing new. We've always been perpetual foreigners. We've always been seen as others. As far back as 1875, and I'm sure even earlier than that, we go through this little timeline. See, it began on paper through the Page Act and the Chinese Exclusion Act. And then 1904, the World's Fair, Mayan people, Filipino indigenous people were exhibited there. And 1930, you had the Watsonville riots in California, where Filipinos were pretty much hunted down like dogs and slaughtered. And then moving along to 1942, around the World War II, Japanese Americans were interned and placed into internment camps. So again, this is not too far in the distant past. In 1960, we have a history of joining the civil rights movement. You see the photo of Martin Luther King wearing some lace. It was no accident. Daniel Akita was moved by a lot of these movements and wanted to share in their support and made sure and hand delivered like as many lays as they could from Hawaii. And only in the 1980s, under Reagan, was there actually a hearing to discuss and review the Japanese internment. And 2001, 9/11 happened, and shortly after that, Sikh Americans and South Asians were targeted. And then 2020, the pandemic hit, and what we call the Chinese virus then started spreading like wildfire and just gave permission to perpetuate hate. So hate crimes are at a decade-new high. African Americans are still by far the largest victims of hate crimes, but Asian Americans are right there behind, and the numbers have just gone up. So of course the numbers are extremely high in all the major cities: New York, LA, Seattle, Boston, San Jose, Dallas. Still goes on. Anti-Asian hate crimes still jump up in numbers, although numbers are increased, suggesting that overall rates are dropping. And last year, these are the friends I had shared about, and I just wanted to give an update. So my friend Noel Quintana, he was slashed in the New York subway on his way to work. And he's still looking for justice over a year. Not much justice there yet. And a friend and registered nurse, Poetry Manis Ranka, also was attacked in the subway for handing out masks to people that looked like they could need it. She's now been appointed by Mayor Eric Adams to a hate crimes task force as a community advisor. Yeah, a couple more things to share since I spoke last year. More deaths. There was Christina Yuna Lee and Michelle Lissago. Michelle Lissago was shoved in the subway in Times Square, also on a busy New York workday morning. And Christina Lee was heading home after a work party and was doing the responsible thing and taking an Uber back to her apartment. And a guy followed her into the apartment and killed her in her own home. So still looking for justice for these two. But to share something personal, last September, I too was assaulted on my way to work. And common thread about all this. There was a bystander who maybe in some ways stopped my attack from potentially of becoming even worse. In some ways, I guess I'm fortunate I'm here today to talk. The guy who assaulted me is now in prison for 3 years. So there is some justice there. He's not prosecuted as a hate crime, unfortunately, but he is in jail. And I know a lot of these crimes have not had that some type of justice. So the fight continues. But I will say I'm still standing. I have been doing karate since all of that happened. I had just recently, before I came over to JemCon, had completed my orange belt test. So, fight continues. And I'm here to let people know that we're not backing down either. And we will stand and fight. I do want to share briefly, the challenges of prosecuting hate crimes. It's a reality because a number of potential hate crimes may go to a district attorney or assistant district attorney, but only a small percentage are actually prosecuted. And why? Why is that? Without solid evidence of hate speech to indicate a perpetrator's motivation, seemingly random attacks against people from marginalized communities may instead be pursued as traditional criminal offenses, creating a problem with combating hate crimes. And that's the reality, unfortunately. Unless we can come together and look at different ways to really examine what's going on. Language barrier. I know amongst a lot of various Asian Americans, they may not be reporting because English may not still be their first language. And they're afraid of reporting crimes to the police. Very suspicious and don't trust anything will happen. Rightly so. And hence attacks are underreported. And still we face lack of funding for hate crime investigators. So there's not much incentive for really looking down into prosecuting hate crimes. There's still a long road towards justice. I will not forget folks like Vincent Chin, who was attacked in the 80s. We've just recently celebrated the 40th anniversary. Just in Detroit, they had a remembrance and rededication to not forget and to remember that he too was a victim of hate against Asians at a time when they were trying to blame Japanese for stealing jobs in the auto industry. And folks like Angela Quinto, who died back in December 2020. Like George Floyd, he was killed while in police custody. The police were called. He was having a mental health crisis and they put him again, restrained him in a prone position. And only recently did Governor Newsom sign AB 490, law to prevent police and prohibiting police from using prone restraints. So in some ways, at least something is moving forward. And to continue where Laban wrapped up the critical race theory, well, where does Asian American history fall in? And it's important. We share our common history, her story, and we need it. We need it to be part of something normal in our education so that we are not seen as others and we don't otherize others that might be different. So thank God states like Connecticut, New Jersey, Illinois have begun taking steps to make it normal in public education. So we need this to be universal. We need other voices to be not other, but part of a common humanity. So keep fighting for that. And I do want to say when things feel like it's overwhelming, visiting George Floyd's memorial reminded me about something. I visited recently with Raven, but it reminded me about the importance of community and supporting one another. And that's where we can heal, you know, especially when we feel like things are hopeless. So we need allyship. We need the anti-racism work. We need Asian solidarity. We need solidarity all across the board. You know, we need projects like the Yellow Whistle Project. We need to demand honest and transparent reporting. We need to reduce the media bias. We need education to bring us together. We need to advocate for improving her story curriculums at all levels. And CRT will benefit us all. I just want folks to know that only us coming together, you know, we can't do this alone. We really need to come together, you know, and even when things seem so dark, we can light the world for one another by just being every one of us, that we exist. We all have a gift. We have power. Use it. You know, why? Because doing the right thing makes you a superstar.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Christine. Thank you all for making the space here at JemCon so that we can talk about this kind of stuff and things that we couldn't talk about in the hour that we have. We're people who care and we're people who want to talk about these things. So those of us who are doing this, and there's other things we can't talk about in this hour: violence against women, violence against LGBTQ people, violence against Latinx people, things that are part of our reality, unfortunately, but we want to make space to do that. The reason that the chat is turned off on the JemCon Zoom is that it has some some racist comments made in 2020 to other between people on the Zoom, and it was we had to figure out a way, and it shuts down the interactivity, but we had to figure out a way to make it a safe space for people who come to our space. And I think we're not going to have time today really for questions, but I think the conversations can happen outside of this room and beyond today as well. Just wanted to say that part of it, that it's important that we create these spaces and important that we're able to talk about it. And then there's some of the guiding documents, the things that the presentations you saw on the screen today, which I'm going to stop sharing now. The presentations you saw on the screen today are going to be available, as well as the guiding documents. Raven spent a lot of time, and Kristen spent a lot of time putting together some resources so that you can kind of delve into this a little more and learn more about what they were talking about. But we really appreciate them doing that and making space for that. And I wanted to give Liz a chance to close out. We do have Samantha Newer coming on at like 10 after the hour, so we'll be back in here with her and lighten the mood a little bit. But we want to, it's just heavy stuff that we wanted to be able to experience. If we chose to, the people who are in the room, it's no shame or blame or anything against those people. It's heavy stuff. It's not for everyone, but thank you for being part of it. I'll let Les close us out. Okay.
So, last night after the dancing, I took my old introvert self back to my room, and I did the thing that I do because I need to do it just to kind of check my brain so I can sleep. And the thing that I watched was this is when I see that I look like it. And the pain of all of us is the pain of all of us. see that, but to see just everywhere all at once. And it is starting to show and keep going. And it is, from what I've seen in the different rooms, it is spectacular. It is it is also a lot of martial arts. And at some point, one of the characters that it is commented on, he's raised father. And what he seemed to do, and what he says is, kindness is how I relate. And that might not sound like a lot, that might not sound like enough, but it is something that can reach all of us. We continue influence. One of the things that I think is most important and which really Christy and John and David last year had a beautiful council discussion is becoming informed. Right now, so here's some things, here's what happened. Here's some things that I just mentioned in that same video that I became involved in various ways. There were conventions with language that say when you buy a house, you will send it to a person who is not in the Twin Cities. It specifies Black and Jewish. Because again, I have friends who come into my houses and find planning their deeds. Friends of age, they're still in act, they're still in person. They don't have to go and do all sorts of legal things to take that out of them, to fight it. Because technically, if you agree to that, you then can sell your house to the blind person that you're forcing in 2022. And it's not just creating, it takes important commitments. It's many commitments, and gaining commitments, and Asian commitments. It is the government of Minnesota deciding that they can understand. They decided that the best place to put it a few years ago was more moving through the authority of Black community of food. So we dropped a lot of money going for sweet program to things like that. We were driving over homes of the livelihood. That's just some stuff. The friend and Christina said this is so much more than the expertise here. But what they have done, and I'm just taking your time with my crying voice. Seriously, God, I feel nuts. And around the people in this room. And that's the how it's going. And that's the world that's not. And yeah. And yeah, so just as one final thought on the point of CRT, there are people who say a child, particularly a white child, should not be taught that they are inherently superior, and a Black child should not be taught that they are inherently inferior. That is true. That is one of the reasons that they oppose the teaching of CRT. And people say that white children should not be taught that their ancestors were slave owners and that they perpetuate the system, and teaching CRT would do that. But the answer to that issue would be there are also white allies and white abolitionists in those stories that those little white children can look up to and model themselves to make the difference.
It's just technology. It's as simple as that. We don't say that any particular person inferior. We are all equal. We all are born with inherent dignity. We all have precious humanity. Yet we all deserve, each and every one of us deserve to have and respected and acknowledged. It's as simple as that.
So Samantha, thank you. So we're going to go off Zoom for a minute. Samantha and Eric will be here in about 5 minutes. So thank you so much. Thank you, Raven. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Christine. Thank you all. Be right back.
Hey, John Henry, can you hear me? Yep. Hey, to everyone on Zoom, I got all the messages about the audio. I'm trying to get the message to them so they can resolve it.
What was the problem with the audio?
Yeah, when Liz got the mic, we couldn't hear, and then when it got back to Raven, it was really choppy.
I think we have some people coming on who weren't
The
on.
audio sounded fine before then. It just suddenly got really bad at the end. But it was fine before that.
You guys can hear me now or not really well?
We can hear you perfectly.
We can hear you.
I think it was just a little bit of quiet talking and emotion too, and I think some people were coming on for Sam's panel. So if it's working now, this is going to be the setup for the next thing.
Okay.
But thank you for bringing it up. Let's end this one. John, can you stay on and be host for this next bit? I'm going to try to turn off the computer Zoom, but I don't want to lose.
Yeah, just make me host, and I can do that.
Okay. I'm just a little nervous, but now you have all the power, and I'm still co-host on the device. But I'm going to leave the meeting now.
All right.
Stay. Okay. So I'm going to try my iPod to see if the audio works.
Okay, did we go through all the steps we wrote down for live speakers? Samantha, give her mic, no speaker to laptop.
Oh, that was the thing.
That's took the speaker out. Okay, so we have no speaker to laptop. Face laptop camera towards her, so we need the laptop camera plugged in, webcam plugged in. Are all those steps.
Let me just turn this on. Hey, Bell Pepper,
Yeah.
can you make John Watson a co-host?
Yep. 1 second. All right, you should be co-host now.
I am, thank you. John, I'm going to turn off this device and check the other device audio. I want you to help me with that, okay?
Okay, I'm here.
Mm-mm. 607, I don't want that one. 1401.
Can you hear me on this device?
Yes, I can.
Everything's fine and perfect? How about now? Is it even better?
I can't really notice a difference.
Okay, we have the mic on. It's going to be better for people in the room.
I mean, it sounds fine.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna do the video just to make sure you can see me okay. Okay. So if I'm Samantha Newer and I'm right here, you can see, okay? Good.
Yeah, you sound good. It looked good.
Cool.
You built a bad boat. It didn't work out. That's on you, honey. Now, can we please talk about my album? Sure. I'm really proud of it. It's 12 tracks, no skip, swear to God.
Okay, I think I've lined it.
Hey, John.
Yeah, what's up?
I want to see the gallery view with everyone in it.
Here.
You know, Philip?
Oh my gosh, Philip, my
Let me
dear
start the video.
friend. Can you see me? Hi.
Hold on, it's coming back. You know, Philip?
That makes me so happy.
John, do you know how I can get the view to show everyone who's not on camera as well?
Yeah, if you go to view, and you have to manually switch to gallery.
I did switch to gallery, but it's only showing me people who are on camera. I'm not seeing that all.
Are you on your phone?
I'm on the computer, the laptop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it should be showing.
It's not for some reason. That's fine. We can see the people who are on camera.
Hi, everybody.
Right
Sunday.
click, show non-video. That's a good. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Now we can see all the people who are on. Okay, I'm gonna turn this one off. I'm leaving this on. We're recording. I won't say much. Samantha, you have to share mine. But I won't. So that one's not working. But I won't say much. But I'll kind of be here on the side and kind of help along. Okay.
Oh, so you're gonna moderate, right?
I'll moderate a little bit, yeah. But yeah, I'm not really super prepared to do it. Let me just grab a pen, okay?
Okay. We can do questions. Keep going, Garth.
Okay, we ready? Okay, we're recording. Hello, Zoom. Hello, people in the room.
Hello, everybody. Good morning.
We have our very special second edition with Samantha Newark, the speaking voice of Jem and the speaking voice of Samantha Newark and many things. But today we have a
I'm the
special.
speaking voice of Samantha Newark.
Yes.
I think I do it quite well.
So I had the pleasure of sharing a wall with Samantha this weekend. She's in the room next to me. We walked up, we were in the elevator up together, and we got to spend an hour together after the first night. So I got some special time with her. So I got a preview of what's going to happen today. So I wanted to just kind of help that conversation along for the people on Zoom and the people in here, because I think it's really special what's going to happen and what she's working on. I want to let her talk, and we're sharing a mic here, but I want to let her talk about it. But I'll ask a few questions. We had a conversation in the room together, and I'll try to represent some of the things that we talked about. Not everything is for everyone for this conversation, but just to kind of like help along some of the things and ask for some of the questions, and then we'll do that. We'll come around the room as well when the time comes, and around the Zoom room. So just send us your things on chat to the moderator, and we can ask Samantha those questions as well. But I'll be here kind of next to her, so apologies for that. But without further ado, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. That was a lovely, unexpected compliment. It was really great. So I appreciate you. I've had the best time this weekend. Last night on that dance floor with everybody in your incredible, incredible costumes, cosplay, just honoring the show in the ways that you do was just, it takes my breath away. It doesn't get old, and it just fills me with all the feels, all the good feels. And this has been really, really good for me. I don't want to cry. Some of you know it's been a very difficult time, and I needed this weekend. I really did. So thank you so much. And all of you there, oh my gosh, all of you on Zoom. This is such a beautiful family. It does feel like a family reunion every time I get to come to JemCon. I see so so many faces, and some of you I'm meeting for the first time, but I feel like I know you because you're my internet friends. And yeah, it's wonderful. So, and we've got the next generation here, which is so lovely. And good parenting. So, however you manage to get to Gem and whatever it means to you, I'm humbled, and it's my joy to have been a part of it. So there's that. So I've done a lot of panels and a lot of interviews over the years, and I'm told crazy stories, you know, like I lived in Africa and I was touring up there, and Bobby was taking over, and it was dangerous, and we had armed convoys taking us to shows and a big tour bus, and we couldn't drive at night because of ambushes and hotels getting I mean, it was crazy, and people were like, what? You know? And I've been encouraged to start writing a book, and I know Christy has a book, and Samantha Paris, and so I thought, well, if it's meaningful to you, then maybe I will start to put my words down on paper. This is a work in progress. It's not edited, and it's actually not even professionally recorded in my own booth. It's just sort of getting it out there, and then it'll be worked on. But I wanted to share you just a wee bit. I mean, it's a long journey, obviously. How do you compartmentalize my 55 years? Like, how do I do that? That's a lot. It's a lot, but you have to start somewhere. So I've started somewhere, and I got to share a little bit the other night, and it was lovely feedback. So that was encouraging. And anyway, I'm talking and blah, 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 blah. So I'll play you just a little excerpt from the first chapter, which is when I was little, living in England. And so there's a little bit of that, and then I'll play you some of the introduction that I'm working on for the book. So, and I think the name of the book is going to be, I Remember How It All Began. Truly Outrageous Adventures of Gem, or something like that, but definitely I Remember How It All Began. So yeah, and then we'll just go from there. So
I did quite a lot with my sister. We weren't begging our parents to take us in the car to the big woods so we could go roly-poly down the big hill. We had friends similar ages, a few doors down, who we would just go off with into the woods. It can't have been far from our house, but it felt like we went far and wide. We romped around the forest for ages, finding places to play. There were bluebells as tall as my chin everywhere, and once we found an old, dirty orange piano sitting outside, as if the house had just fallen away around it. Then there was a house that had burned down, and that place gave us the creeps, so we would run really fast so we didn't have to look. I have a vivid memory of playing in a two-story building that was in the middle of being built, and it seemed like no one was ever there, so we would just spend hours playing in that place with the fresh air wafting through, as there were no walls yet, just a floor and support beams to climb on. The smell and feel of the soft sawdust all over the floor and bags of concrete to lay about on and lazily look up at the sky. I remember doing some stupid climbing on things. It's when I think about it, we could have been plummeted, any one of us, to the floor with broken bones. But we always scaled it safely and returned home unscathed and ready for a bath and dinner. I don't want you to think my folks were flippant in making sure we were safe, because they were always good about that. But sometimes kids can do stupid stuff under the radar, despite a parent's best efforts. Plus, it was a different time back then. Their generation were allowed to roam until dusk. And it was passed on to us kids in many ways. We explored endlessly with our friends and came home when it was dinner. We were just allowed to be kids. It's different today. One time my sister and I had been dropped off down the street at our friend's house while Mom and Dad went somewhere. And I remember being so annoyed that I wasn't able to just go home. It was the middle of the day. And so I just decided that I was going to march up the street to go home to my house. My sister and our two little friends decided to come too, so we all headed over to our house, and to my frustration, we really couldn't get in. I think when your parents say we'll be back soon, your 5-year-old brain thinks, soon? What is soon? Soon is just way too long and vague and completely confusing. I can't remember whose idea it was to literally try and break into the house with the 4 of us grubby little hands. heaved and howled and dragged with her little arms my dad's damp and dirty ladder from the basement. God knows how the four of us, all under 4 feet, managed to pitch this damn thing to the second story window, but the window was open and apparently that was all the incentive that we needed. Before one of us could choose who would actually scale the ladder to climb in the second story window to rescue us from this afternoon of never-ending child purgatory, my parents came home. We all heard the car door slam in the driveway, and I know you all know that feeling. Uh-oh, busted. Long story short, after seeing the ladder, they thought that we had been robbed. My mom and dad were running around in a panic, asking what we were doing there and if we were okay. They may have even called the police, but I don't remember. None of our plan was really thought through, and now it was all just a bit terrifying and too much for my 5-year-old brain to cop to. I was sincerely a really good kid, and it was way too much to comprehend that I, Samantha, may be in serious trouble. All I could think to do as I backed away from the house and the ladder was to distract them by showing them how big the tomato plants had gotten. I think by this time the little friend had run home and Caroline and I were left in the aftermath. What's crazy is that when I retold the story to my parents as an adult many years later, they actually never suspected us.
So, yeah, that's like, I heard that and tears in my eyes at the kind of the way it flowed, and I was like, it's an audiobook, obviously you have to record this too. It's like, it's great writing, and you know, no formal training that Sam has in this, but just kind of expressing herself in this way and then reading what she wrote in this way. I just thought it was high art. So why did you decide to record like your words in this way, and what brought you to this version? Because you're still writing the book. It's very early, and
Yeah.
but you have to hear it this way, kind of, right? So tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that if I wrote a book, I was gonna have to do an audiobook for it. So I thought, well, why not record? Why not hear it back as you guys would be hearing it back and reading it? So that's where that came from. But it's a helpful tool because you can kind of, I want the book to be conversational, and I want it to be like I'm just telling you my story, so it doesn't sound artificial. And so it really is organic and just me sort of rolling with it. So yeah.
So you're starting with this part, the kind of the first memories, the introduction.
Right.
There's a lot of other things that you want to talk about and you want to write about. Like, how do you decide what order you write about things, as far as you know, what stands out the most? What's the thing that you feel most inspired to write about? You might go to your 30s, you might go back to the teenage
Right.
years, and so how are you going to map that out, or is that too stressful to think about right now?
That's the question, because I've never done this before. So like I was saying, how do you compartmentalize all of these moments, you know? But I have been making notes, and when I talk to somebody about something, and I would be like, that's actually something I should put in my book. So it's just going to be about organizing it and making it make sense. And you know, and I'm probably going to need some help with that at some point, just to not have it be all over the place. But start with chapter 1 when I was a kid, and then chapter 2 is Little Miss Dynamite, Adventures in Africa. So that will be, and it's going to be so lovely to talk to my mom about that, because I was 6.5 when we left to go there, and 9 when we went back to England, and 10 when we came to America. So, and then there's America and the getting to play the lead in Annie, and all of the auditions, and just there's so much. And then Los Angeles, good Lord. Los Angeles could be a whole book by itself. But of course, Jem, you know, when that happened, and after I'd been there for a few years, and how that was just incredible. I mean, we're obviously still here talking about it. So I can't wait to talk about that. And yeah, so, and then and my dad, and who managed me for a very long time, and I kind of had to fire him when I was 16, which didn't go over very well. I love my dad, but he was difficult, and we had a very difficult relationship, and I needed to understand who I was outside of the girl that sang and was managed by my dad. Like, what did Samantha's think? What did Samantha like? What songs did Samantha want to sing? How did Samantha want to wear her hair? All of these things. I lived in a very, so I want to talk about that and things that I discovered in my late 40s that really helped me understand the challenges that I've been through with my dad, the dynamic and what that was. And it actually had a name. And I didn't know that until I was much older. And I thought, my God, if I didn't know this and I grew up in this, maybe other people need to know this too. Maybe giving it a language will actually help somebody else. And so anyway, that would be kind of where the introduction comes in, which is a bit longer. So I hope you guys don't mind, but it's not terribly long, but.
Let me ask you a couple questions before we play that,
Yeah.
because I know it's going to be a big hit with everybody. So I want to get to a couple things I want to ask you about. You talked about your dad and having to fire him, but like the relationship when we talked about it was a little bit like his death was the impetus for you feeling like you could tell the story now because he's not around any longer, and it's your story to tell now because no one else whose story it would be is alive, right? So there's something about that and how he managed you in the way that was not like, you know what to do, you know what to say. It would kind of be like a micromanaging situation, like say it exactly like this. And so tell us more about the dad's part of it. And I want to ask about your sister as well, but let's talk about that first.
Yeah, so I mean, not to get like horribly heavy, but we all have childhood stuff that we deal with. And I grew up with a narcissistic dad. And I didn't know what that was for a long, long, long time. I didn't understand, and I thought it was some deficit in me that just didn't know how to manage it. And it was a childhood full of gaslighting and abuse toward my mom, and it was very painful and very difficult for my sister and I. And my sister was the one that like climbed out the window at 12 years old and was like, "You're crazy. You people are crazy. I'm leaving and I'm going to just go roller skating." And she cut school and she did all of that. She was like the scapegoat of the family and just took off. And I was the family business since I was 7 years old. So I couldn't figure out how I could extricate myself from that situation without destroying what we had done as a family since my earliest memories, really. So it was very, very difficult journey trying to navigate that. And Jem literally was this unbelievable gift to me that came into my life when I needed it the most, when my parents were getting divorced. And then I got to go off and I got to work and be Jem, and I got to make money. And I got to get my own apartment and I got to move out of the chaos. And I got to focus on something that wasn't painful, that brought me joy. And so that's kind of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep crying.
I know. It's emotional stuff. Like coming to these realizations about yourself and about your life and how it all came together and what things happened at the right times and what things had to happen in order for you to get to where you are. And like we talked the other day just about, I was just kind of, having an existential crisis in my direction about what do we do? The world is on fire, and what do we do? How do we fix it? Like I don't feel like it's going to, and all the things that we try to put the love out there in the universe and do the right things to make the world a better place for myself and for other people, not just me.
Right.
And you had a very confident direction. I don't remember how you said it, but maybe you do, but you said something to me that was very helpful about how we should kind of be in the world and present and move forward. So do you want to talk about that?
I mean, I really think it does start with you. It's taking care of your own garden, keeping your side of the street clean and living a life that you want to see mirrored, and there can be teachable moments with other people, because I think people are attracted to something sweet and something pure, and they maybe have forgotten. And if you can walk through the world that way, you can like remind people. And so that's what I want to be able to do, the ones that are asleep or are prickly because they've been through so much. you know, I want to penetrate that. I want to create a safe place for them to sort of relax and enjoy their life more, you know, because we all want the same things. We all want to be happy. We all want to be creative and feel like we're making a difference in the world. And that's all any of us little humans want, you know? So I just want everybody to want that for everybody else, you know? And it starts with you, so, yeah.
Yeah, amen, right? Very, very true. I talked with you about, at a con, I asked you one time, a previous con, I asked you about, did you ever feel ashamed of your work on Gem? It's a kid's property, and I thought that's why you weren't kind of in the public imagination about Gem right after it was gone, or later, that you were trying to like break away from that Gem kid mold. But you kind of described it back to me in when I asked the question about it being a way that people in Hollywood could age you, because they could associate with a property that was made in '85. That must mean you were probably around 21 at the youngest then. So you want to talk a little bit about the ageism thing, and that's something that's going to come up in the book, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I mean, I feel like when I was in Los Angeles, I did everything right. I worked so hard. I played every dirtbag club in Los Angeles. I busted my butt. I paid my dues. And this was like the songwriting years. You know, I'd already been paying my dues since I was like 7, you know? It's like, how long is it gonna take? I just wanted to be self-supporting, doing what I loved, and, you know, be able to bring my music to a bigger stage. And yeah, when I started to get into my 30s, I started to, it was just fear. It was really fear, like the gatekeepers that, you know, unless LA was turning into, unless you're 14 and you're a Disney kid, nobody cares. And I was already I was too old to audition for American Idol because I was like 30 and the cutoff was 28. I'm like, why is the cutoff 28? Like, what are you, a monster old lady by the time you're 30? Like, what is the messages that Hollywood, and I understand, you know, the business, like touring, they want young people because it's a lot to tour, and I get that part of it. But there's also, there's so many people in my age group that have been through so much, and I'd like to think that I have something to say that maybe a 20-year-old hasn't gotten to yet. And you know, that there's an audience for that, and that, you know, there's a demographic. So I didn't talk about Gem for a while because I was scared. And God, I remember I almost got this project. It was a pretty big deal, and my mom, this is how insane it was. My mom and I aged me down a decade. And so we were like trying to figure out, like, I was born in 77 and I had, you know, and it was so insane. And then I had a conversation with my mom, and I was like, I literally have been lying about my age since I was 7. Because when I was 7, when I was 9, it was cuter to be 8 or 7. So they aged me backwards. And when I was 12, I was being thrust into like, it's better if you're 18 because you can work without a work permit. So I was lying about my age when I was 15, 16. And I mean, the insanity of a young mind navigating that, always having to, like, you know, the emotional toll that I don't think I even realized was happening. But it definitely was a thing. And so anyway, I got to the point, I can't even remember when it was, but there was so much love, fierce love for Gem, and you guys have just embraced me so beautifully. And I just thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? This is crazy. This is the insanity of the world that I don't want anything to do with. I don't want to co-sign this because it's bullshit. And I want to, sorry, love. I want to go where the love is, and I've talked about that before. And so I just thought, you know what? I will carve out, I will bring my music to you guys. And if you love my music, then right on. And I'm gonna do it anyway, but I'm not gonna play this game anymore. And so it's completely unhealthy and sick. And so it's a commitment I made to myself to just not play that game anymore, because I don't care anymore. I've got you guys and I've got my creative spirit that gets nurtured. And if at the end of the day, I can die a happy person because I have lived with integrity in that way. And that's all I can ask for. So, yeah.
That's what you said for another answer for me, another con before Follow the Love. Like that's what you
Yeah.
decided. That was kind of how you make your decisions about your career and what you're doing from now on as a woman in this industry,
Yeah.
as a person in this industry, as a person of a certain age, as a person of integrity, or whatever kind of person you are. And you were like, I follow the love. Like that's the only guiding principle. You said that to me, and I remember that a lot when I'm making my own decisions. You know,
That's amazing.
I wanted to talk about your sister a little bit. You mentioned her in the chapter, and so I was curious after I heard that chapter, what's it like with her still? And I know you just lost your stepfather, and your sister came and helped you and your mother get through that. So do you want to talk about? I'm not trying to be Oprah here, make you cry about everything, but do you want to talk about your sister, how that all turned out? She was the rebel, and you were the family business.
Right.
So tell us a little more about her.
My beautiful, beautiful sister, Caroline. Oh, do I love that girl? I love that girl. I like fiercely love that girl. And we have processed things so differently over the years. And she has had her journey. Good Lord, has scared the hell out of me. And, you know, everybody that loves her, trying to like a beautiful wildflower, trying to, you know, get to the light. Like she is just the most beautiful spirit. And we understand each other. And when she came to help my dad transition, we were all there together the day that he died. We were like literally in his room, holding his hand with the dog lying on his legs. And as sad as that was, it was absolutely beautiful. And it was the end of a chapter, and it's the beginning of a new chapter now. And I think there was something it was like beyond our history, or I don't even know how to express it, but it brought us all profoundly closer. And we were already like ridiculously close anyway, but to share that, letting somebody go that you love, that was the best man I ever knew. And I loved my dad. Don't get me wrong, I loved my dad. But my stepdad was, wow, like just solid, kind, consistent, because I didn't have that growing up. I never knew what was coming. He was just consistent and kind and wonderful. And my sister needed that so much as well. So it was like the most amazing 35 years with my stepdad that I will treasure forever.
You made it to August, right?
Yeah, he actually said, I'm going, because he had dementia. He was like, I'm going home in August. And we're like, Papa, where's home? Where are you going? He's like, heaven. And this was in May, maybe April or May. And he said, I'm gonna go in August. I want to go home. And he died August 1st. He died the first day of August. So anyway, yeah, it's just, you know, it's beautiful and it's bittersweet and it's sad and it's all of these things, and it brings you closer, and it makes you not take your life for granted. And going through that with my dad, I realized like, wow, I really need to start exercising. Wow, I really need to start taking better care of myself. I really, you know, it's like he's inspired me just to not take things for granted, not take my body for granted, not take things for granted, because we're, you know, we know with Patricia and Ari and Wally Burr and all of these wonderful people that we've lost from Gem, like it's not promised for any of us. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
I didn't mean for this to get so heavy, you guys.
We love it. We do love it. I think it's probably time to play a little more, right?
Okay.
You guys want to hear some more from the book? Samantha reading. We have some questions in the chat. I'm sure you guys have some questions too. So we'll play this and then we might come to the audience for some questions.
Oh, can I just give a shout out real quick
Yeah.
to Philip, all the way in Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
I can see you, Philip. Philip took care of my stepdad from another country. He's a doctor, and all these wonderful photographs of my stepdad, and he was a carpenter and a chiropractor, and he got t-shirts that said the spine whisperer for him, and sawdust is man glitter, and some of my favorite pictures of my stepdad. Philip said, and he always was like, what medication is he taking, and take pictures of it. And Philip, I love you, and just thank you for just being the most amazing person that you are. You are so precious, and I don't even know how to repay you for your kindness. So shout out to Philip.
Philip, do you want to come off mute and say anything since it is your moment? Are you there?
Yeah, hi. From all the way from Edmonton, can you hear me?
I don't think
Yeah.
you can hear him.
Oh,
Sorry, Philip.
can you try?
Let's put it in the chat, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Sorry,
No?
Sorry.
Oh,
okay.
no. Oh, hang
we
on.
Love you. Thank
Oh,
you.
hang
Thank
on.
you for that, Philip. So let's play a little more from this is the forward that you've written.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the introduction. So
I remember how it all began. I remember how it all began with the unexpected death of my father. The poignant first words spoken by my character, Jerica Benton, in the very first episode of Gem and the Holograms, the beginning. I'm imagining if you're reading these pages or hearing this audio, you're probably here because of the wonderful world of Gem and the Holograms, the cartoon. So many of you have been with me on this crazy, wacky, wonderful journey for many years now. And many of you in my travels have asked me if I'd ever consider writing a book. I guess some of my stories that I've shared from my adventures and interviews have captured your imagination and curiosity, and maybe are worthy of writing down. So I thank you for inspiring me to finally have the courage to do this. I recognize I have been a part of something truly special, a moment in time, getting to work with such talented, amazing people that created and contributed to the whole world of Gem. And this work has truly blessed me in ways that I could never have imagined. Being an indie singer-songwriter for many years now, I really do relate to my roles on Gem. Jerica Benton, businesswoman, creating and running all that goes on behind the scenes. Well, we didn't have social media, but the social media, wearing a million trillion hats, booking gigs, booking travel, managing all that is this career and stressing over every detail. And then I get to put on my makeup, my big hair, roll out my swagger and some sparkly heels and throw on some glitter and crank the music and walk out on stage just like Gem gets to do. I mean, getting to be Gem is like getting to truly live out your rock star fantasies. As many who are in the entertainment industry will tell you, this is a journey of huge peaks and valleys, feast and famine. It's not an industry for the faint of heart, and you have to be in it for the long run. And you're going to encounter a ton of in-your-face rejection, and all the while being in a business that does not give you direction and offers no real formula for success. You'll meet the most magical peers walking the same path as you, and your tribe who are your biggest cheerleaders. But then you will also encounter many misfits and Eric Raymonds along the way who simply would just love, love, love to see you fail. I always say, be ready to leap into the void and take these huge risks, because it's going to require huge risks and a ton of courage, or a little crazy. Actually, a little bit of both, because you never know where your good is going to come from. The saying, don't quit before the miracle, and you stand in the line long enough, you're going to get to the front, have been my talismans that have literally helped keep me going. It really has been about being boundlessly in love with what you do, like the deepest, most beautiful breath in your lungs, something you literally can't not do. And believe me, failure after failure, rejection after rejection, it can be so hard to just hang in there and remember who you are and why you even started this journey in the first place. All of these things I've learned have sustained me. And then there's the endless support and love and encouragement from my beautiful mother, who is forever my unconditional rock and my biggest cheerleader. And then there are you guys. I can't even begin to tell you what your love and encouragement has meant to me over the years. I'm so honored and grateful, and it makes me feel small and huge at the same time. Jem is just this incredible gift on a very difficult journey that somehow keeps on giving and breathing new life into me and inspires me to wake up every day and keep creating and growing and sharing with you guys. So how do I possibly begin these pages? I wanted the opportunity to have a voice and speak my truth and tell my story. But at the same time, I didn't want to hurt anybody. And I especially didn't want to hurt my dad. My dad and I have had an extremely complicated relationship. So the idea of ever writing my story while he was here was something I really grappled with. How can I tell my story if I can't tell my story? Then at 9 a.m. on the morning of April 20th, 2020, my dad, Tony, died suddenly and very unexpectedly from a heart attack. It was right in the middle of the COVID crisis. According to my stepmom, he was feeling pretty crappy the night before, but was too afraid to go to the hospital. And with everything going on and families not even being allowed to be there with him, I so understood his fear. We will never truly know if going to the hospital would have ultimately saved his life. Losing a parent is surreal and sad and fucked up. And you expect to be able to have a funeral with your family when your loved one dies. But like so many people during this lockdown, things were far from normal. And we still to this day have not had a funeral for him. Being in Nashville, I'm 2 hours ahead of California. And in my world that day, my mom and I were about to host a birthday party for my wonderful stepdad of 30 years now. Decorations, a birthday cake, a lovely day planned ahead, and the doorbell rang with the party guests, and then the phone rang, and it was my sister telling me the news. It was shocking and surreal and strangely such a microcosm of my childhood. The timing, because I could hear my dad saying, just pull it out of the bag, Sam. You have a show to do. And so I did. Somehow, as the party niceties ensued, I was grand hostess while simultaneously trying to process the departure of my dear dad from this earthly plane.
So that's the floor.
So yeah, I'm glad that more people besides me and 2 others have heard that now. It's just amazing, right? And it reminds me, and then hearing Townsend yesterday too, hearing Sam talk in person, you get the talent, but hearing it recorded like that, that's her art, one of her many artistic ways. And you hear Jem, you hear the exact same voice that's inside that when you were 21. Doing that, you know, so it's 18. Sorry, yeah. It's hard to keep track when you keep changing your age, you know. You have to remember what's popular slightly before or after, which I don't know which direction, you know, it's like hard, the living a lie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted, I was just convinced and in tears again this time, but the first time I heard it, just you have to share this with these people this weekend. It's going to be amazing, and they're going to really enjoy it. And I hope you guys did enjoy that. I was gonna I was going to say the thing that you said about Jem inspiring your creativity. I think a lot of us, whatever creative endeavors we do as our jobs or on top of our jobs, are all kind of tie back to Jem and are inspired by Jem. And so I'm glad it's giving you life as it gives us life in that way. Yeah, so I'm going to go to the Zoom and see what people are asking and saying there. I did want to give you a chance to talk about your gay friends as your gay friend now. You know how gay boys can be sometimes. And when we were in your room, you sang me a little song about a bad gay friend. Do you want to do a little? Do you want to do that? You want to do a little acapella of that really quick?
This was like an Eric Rain moment, you know, and it's like never piss off a songwriter because they might just put a song on their album, which was, hey, shady, yeah, I said it, I got a line for you. How's this for torture? You know I warned you. Well, everybody knows what you do. Hey, sugar. I don't remember the words. All alone and don't get better. All alone in the nasty weather. Yeah. All alone with your toys. Couldn't play nice with the other boys. You know the boy toys. To hell with the haters. I'm through with the takers. It's the other way around, actually. There's no remedy for the boys. Yeah. He won't be left standing. Yeah, that was cathartic to write that.
Sometimes you gotta write it down. Don't piss off the songwriter. That's part of the thing. And I'm amazed at how you sang. It's because it's kind of a dance song, really, but you sang it so well a cappella, and you play some other music for me that it's like so different than what we know from you. So I'd love to hear that at some point, you know. So people stay tuned for that. I think it's gonna be amazing. Yeah, talk a little bit about show business as a woman, especially in your 20s, when you kind of some of the stories, if you want to tell me, and I'll look at this while you tell. Just talk generally about the difficulties of being a woman in show business. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, once the Gem residuals ran out, which they do, which nobody told me because I was young and stupid and never really thought about that. So, you know, I'm hoofing it around Los Angeles, and at one point my car broke down and I couldn't afford to get it fixed. So I had no car for 6 months and I was on the bus, and you really learn who your friends are when you're taking public transportation or you're walking, which I did. Walked all over Los Angeles with my guitar. It took me like 4 buses to get over the hill to go to rehearsals and spend like the last $50 to pay for the rehearsal room and just all of this insanity. And if I had $1 for everybody, it was like, I saw you walking up Crescent Heights the other day with your guitar. It's like, really? Thanks. Thank you for driving past me. And yeah, crazy stuff. And I think a lot of women could, and men can relate to this too. I mean, if I wouldn't sleep with one of my guitar players or whoever was into me, I would get punished, and they would withhold, and they would withhold their time. They would withhold rides to the studio. I mean, just so gigs and just manipulative stuff that I constantly had to navigate because I wouldn't do it. I was like, no, music here, personal stuff there. I don't do that. And, you know, and it happened so many times, and it was such an Achilles heel. And I think women can really relate to that when you're just like, I'm here for the music. What part of I'm here for the music? And it was hard to not take it personally because you want people to see your talent. And so they would talk really big and you're so talented and I want to work with you. But there was an agenda. So here come the gay boys in my life, my gay husbands, my brothers from other mothers, who have like nurtured my little artist heart, that don't want anything from me other than for me to succeed and shine and fly. And oh my gosh, I mean, obviously I have straight friends that do that too, and they're my dear circle of people that I love, and they're, you know, but people wonder why women have gay friends, and that is a huge part of it, you know. And I'm not a man hater in any way. I love men. Like, I love men, and I know some incredible men and beautiful men, but there have been a lot of Eric Raymonds out there
Yeah.
on my path that I wish I could have slapped like I did in the cartoon.
Yeah.
But I never did.
Thanks for telling that story, Sam. So I'm going to go to the Zoom chat first, and you people in the audience think of what you want to ask as well. I'll have you come up and ask it on the mic so people on Zoom can hear it. So if you want to line up, if you have a question, just line up over here. We can take them one at a time. Jem in England asked us, what do you miss most from the time you were recording for Jem?
Oh my gosh, just, I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say a steady paycheck.
Yeah.
Because that gives you freedom. And I felt like I could finally relax. I could just relax. And that was just a lovely feeling. I felt very abundant. But just the work itself, I mean, the challenge and the going in and with all the butterflies and hoping that you're going to do a great job, and then being on the other side of it and then feeling proud of yourself, that was so rewarding. So I love that. I mean, I love the creative process in that way, because, you know, you are walking into it blind and you're out of your comfort zone, and that is so healthy. It's so healthy to be out of your comfort zone and always push yourself to be at, because otherwise I think your neural pathways, your life gets really, really small. So I love that creative venture. Jem from England.
Thanks for the
Jem
question.
from my country, the UK.
Yes.
Gosh. That's so cool. Thank you for your question, Jem.
Next question is from Amy. She says, now that you're doing this for your book, are you thinking of doing audiobooks for other authors in the future as well?
Yes, thank you for your question, Amy. Wait, is that Amy Rhodes from Texas?
Yes.
Hi, Amy.
Yeah, Amy calls Russell. Yeah.
Hi, sweetie. No, that's not Amy Rhodes from Texas.
Yeah, but she's from Texas. She's from Texas, I think.
Oh, awesome.
As well.
Hi, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I got to do an audiobook for Jace Peoples. He wrote a children's book, LGBTQ friendly, beautiful children's book called Squares Their Pair. And he hired me to do the audiobook for that. And yeah, now that I have my home studio, I would love to start doing audiobooks.
Yeah,
so I mean, so much of the voiceover world is auditioning. You know, I'd love to do some meditations too.
That would be great. You have a great voice for that. Yeah.
Take a breath. Imagine yourself in the Starlight House with a cup of coffee, and all the Starlight girls are sleeping right now, and you finally have some peace. Yeah, it would be really fun.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great too. Just to relay for Philip, since he's not able to come and speak to us, he just says that the book is so good. It's flowing and reflective. It will be full of vivid and important memories. It will be a therapeutic journey. So I think that's part of what your intention is too, just to get your story down on paper, right?
It kind of is. I mean, in a selfish way, you know, yeah, it is. I think we all want to have a voice in the world, and mine's a little unique because of you guys and what I do, and that you're actually interested in what I have to say sometimes. So that's lovely. But yeah, I think it'll be very cathartic. It already is. It already is. Yeah,
Cool.
it's good.
Vasily from Russia is asking.
From Russia.
Yeah.
Oh my
He's been
God.
on all weekend. He's been,
That's
he's
so
a
amazing.
big fan.
Hello.
So let me see. Is he on screen? Yes, there he is, right there.
Hello.
So he's asking about what you think of. I've lost it. Hold on. Jem was pre-auto-tune. What do you think of the modern obsession with pitch correction in the music industry?
Ugh. I mean, I can't say like, so I was a session singer in LA for a lot of years, and you know, there is something nice about if, you know, they can go in, they can fix it and make it perfect, you know, and for time's sake and stuff like that, if you're knocking out songs, if you have to knock them out in 4 hours and all of that stuff. So, I mean, it's cool, but it's just tragic how it's completely overused, and people who can't sing, because when you sing, you have to be able to hit the note. Like, that's the definition of like the notes here. And if you can't get there, you're not a singer.
Right.
You know, you're probably brilliant at other things, but so with the auto-tune madness, it's just, and you can hear it too. It's a weird sound, and so yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm from the days of like reel-to-reel things and singing it through, and it was a big deal to make a mistake because they had to literally cut the tape and tape the tape, and like, you know, so you learn to sing and not make mistakes. And
you still did it. We just saw you do it. So you made it, right?
My voice is fried from talking all weekend, but yeah, I mean, to me, my favorite singers are the ones that can just sit up on the stage with just a guitar player, guitar and vocals, and just do it. You know, they don't need anything. Maybe just some good acoustics in the room or a nice mic, but that's it. You know, that to me as a singer, and those are the ones that I'm just like, oh my God, I love. So yeah.
So I know you know, or probably know, we've been talking about it a lot this week, and they rebooted X-Men 97. They bring back some of the voice actors that are still around to be part of the reboot, and
I didn't know
and
that.
some of the same, like the creative people behind it. So they're going to pick the story up in 1997 when the show ended. So the
That's
question,
smart.
that's
Somebody's thinking.
somebody's
it's
thinking, right?
smart.
Yeah.
Like it's about time, right?
So the question from both Gio and Christian is, if they did reboot Jem, would you be interested in being the voice of Jem and Jerica? I wonder what your answer might be to that.
I hate those characters. I mean, I keep hearing that I still sound like Jerica and Jem. So I'd like to think I still do. So yeah, I mean, my gosh, if Christy were involved, I mean, yeah, I just would hope. It's hard. It was a different time back then. And even though the show has stood the test of time and it's still relevant to you as a 15-year-old, I would hope they wouldn't deviate too much from what made it so special and have like, I don't know, there's something so pure and so simple and lovely about the brand, and it would have to be in the best of hands. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to be involved in something that, you know, just didn't feel right. So it would need to have the heart and the integrity and the fun and all of that. And I can't imagine that without Christy, to be honest, you know, I mean, so yeah.
I think, yeah, in the X-Men case, I think they're bringing back the Christie equivalent in X-Men, so she would be part of this hypothetical thing we're all thinking about. Right? I have a few more questions in chat, but I want to get to some people in the room. So Christine, you want to ask first?
Hi, sweetie. Your cosplay was so amazing last night.
It was so
Getting
cute.
to dance with you. It was so fun.
Thank you so much for beginning to embark on sharing your story. And my question is, what do you wish to, or what pearls of wisdom do you hope to share with folks who are struggling to find their own voice or struggling to find themselves?
I love that.
It's a great
That's a
question.
good
Thank you.
question.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can only hope, you know, I remember when I was a kid and people would say to me, don't ever change, don't ever change. And I couldn't really understand what they meant by that. I was like, why would I change? And the longer you're in the world, the crazy world on fire, the more you start to understand why people change, why people shut down, why people put on their armor, why people become mean, why people become aggressive. And I really got that. And I thought, we really have two choices here in the world, is to let the world beat you down into something that you're not, somebody that you don't even recognize anymore, because everybody has pain. Everybody who's woken up in the morning and been on the planet long enough has pain. Or you can let it deepen you and deepen your synergy.
Nothing changed at all.
You can let it, that's so weird. Yeah, but you can let it not destroy you. You can let it deepen you and soften you and make your empathy. I have more empathy because of the stuff that I. Whoa! She fixed it. I was over there. I didn't do it. Thank you, love. I'm gonna unplug that just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
Yeah, so I think those are your choices in the world. You either let the world beat you up and you become somebody that you don't even recognize anymore, and then the world will respond, and then it's like this ping pong from hell, but keeps
molding
going.
you and
Yeah, and it's so
ruining things, yeah.
sad. Like I have compassion for people. It's not like I want to hang out with them necessarily, but I have compassion. I understand it all comes from pain. And I want to, I guess the pearls of wisdom to answer your question in a really long way would be, don't let the world make you harsh. Let the world make you strong and open your heart and make you wise and make you have compassion for people that have pain and have good boundaries. You have to have good boundaries to be able to take care of yourself. But that's what I would say. Yeah.
Great advice.
Before I came here, I just finished watching the documentary Life After Tomorrow, which was a lot of women who were involved with Annie growing up. And you mentioned Annie. So I'd love to hear some of your Annie stories from another iconic property you were involved with.
Oh my gosh.
Give us an Annie story. Is it gonna be a chapter?
So kids of a certain age, I was obsessed with Annie. Like I've heard you guys talk about, I was obsessed with Jem growing up. Oh my God, I was so obsessed with Annie, I couldn't stand it. I wanted to be Annie so bad. And I remember when we moved to Virginia, there was a commercial that came on for New York. It was just like promoting New York, and all the casts from all the different Broadway shows, like a chorus line, they would be singing, I love New York. And it was all the cast. I'm getting chills right now remembering it. And I would be sound asleep in my bed. And as soon as I heard the I Love New York commercial, I would bolt out of bed because the Annie cast was a part of it. And all these Annie kids were like, I love New York. And it was so fun. So I got to see the original with Dorothy Loudon and Andrea McArdle in Washington, D.C. And it was brilliant. I got to go backstage, and I just was like, this is my life. I want to be backstage with these kids, and I want to wear the orphan clothes, and I want to be Annie. I settled for an orphan. I just want to be a part of it, you know? So they had auditions for, it was an abbreviated production of Annie with the United States Navy Concert Orchestra, which was a pretty big deal. And they auditioned hundreds of kids from all over. And I got Annie, and I got to do the abbreviated performance without so much dialogue, but there was some, but not all of it. And it was just an incredible, incredible night. So Martin Charnin, who wrote the lyrics for Annie, I mean, the songs in that musical are just incredible. So he came to see me, and he flew me to New York to audition for the London Broadway production of it. And so I went to New York, and I had to like dance and sing and audition again, but I was getting too tall. I was like the tallest girl in my class. And after lining me up with the other kids and all of that, the news came back that I was too tall and that I was going to grow, because it was 6 months until we would start rehearsals. And I remember my mom like begged him, like, get a taller Daddy Warbucks. I think she even said that to him, like, just get a taller Daddy Warbucks. And he was like, no, she's gonna grow in 6 months. It's like,
Can't lie about your height.
you
really.
can't lie about your height. Exactly. So funny. Oh my God, we tried. Yeah. So I went from like 4'10" to 5'5" in like, it's just, I sprouted up because I was 11 at that point, and I didn't get any. I didn't get to go to London and do it. But I got to like sing at the Ohio State Fair, and I got to open for Pat and Debbie Boone and Eddie Rabbit, and I got to do like all of these other amazing things. But it was my first showbiz heartbreak, because I've never wanted anything so much in my life. And even though I got to be Annie in Washington, I wanted to go to London, and I had a British passport still, and just all of it. And, you know, so anyway, that was my Annie story.
Kind of an arbitrary reason not to have your dreams come true. Another Hollywood like thing, right? Like another like random thing.
Very random thing.
Like
yeah,
too tall.
I know, right?
So I know we're over time. Thank you so much for your time. I have a couple more questions, and we're gonna have I'll give you a little break before we do the autograph session. We'll do it in here.
Okay, that sounds lovely.
Okay, so we'll do a 10-minute break after this is over. For you people on Zoom, no autographs for you. You have to buy them at SamanthaNewark.com at the store. Get them at the store, right? but we can do the autographs in here. So I think this is a great thing to, oh, so Carlos is asking. Carlos from Portugal, right? Is it Portugal?
Hi,
Yes.
Carlos.
There.
Yeah.
Okay. He is also a musician. He wants to know when the book's going to be done. He's already pressing you for a date.
So I'm hoping to have it out by in time for like maybe October of next year, because I have a lot of work to do. So I think it'll be around like before Christmas, so that you can get it kind of in time for Christmas type of thing. So that's, and it's good to set goals. So that's I'm speaking in front of all of you. Oh my God.
I know, now you
have
have a deadline. Now you have a deadline. You're going to self-publish it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so self-publishing the book itself, which we can all do now with the thanks, which is a good thing because no one gets the cut. You get to be Jerica and Jem
Right.
and all of it, and the same with the audiobook. You're going to be able to record that and get
I can
all the
record it
profits.
myself
Yeah, you
and-
record it in your own studio,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I can record in my own studio that I hand sewed, listening to Pink Floyd, Division Bell, and just hand sew in my studio. It's awesome.
So that's our responsibility once the book comes out, is to all buy it and tell our friends about it and download the audio version and listen to it. Yeah, maybe we get a pre-order link up, maybe. That will really make you have to do it, right?
Yeah, that's probably what I'll have to do, because I'll probably have to do pre-orders in order to implement the production of the books, like what I did with my records and stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
That'd be great. So
Here's the next journey. Here we go.
Lindy from Singapore says, take your time, you can't rush art. So she's giving you a little grace there.
That's sweet. Thank you.
And Amy wants to know, well, she wants to say, first of all, thank you so much for coming to JemCon. Well, Miranda said she wants to hear your meditation tape. So that's another project. So that's really on the docket. And Lindy's from Malaysia, sorry, not Singapore. Amy wants to say thank you so much for coming to JemCon this year. You've been our featured star all weekend, so it's been lovely having you. And she wants to know where you're going to be. She wants to know where you're going to be making your next appearances, cons, signings. What's coming up for you?
I'm doing something it's October 22nd. I haven't announced it yet, but it's an appearance up in Metropolis, Illinois. It's this town called Metropolis, and literally the whole town's dedicated to Superman. And it's the coolest place. And I did a show there years ago, and I was like, this place is amazing. So yeah, they're having me out for like an 80s event, October 22nd. So I'll have all the stuff on my website when I get home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Sam. Again, it's been such a lovely time. This is so fun. Thanks, Sam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a lot of fun. Bell Pepper, you've got this.
Yeah, was that the last? Is that the last thing that we're gonna zoom into?
I didn't know the rules, and no one was here to tell me, so she just told me that. But if you want to mention it now, let me turn this on mute really quick.
Wow, ignored.
I still have that game. I'm just saying if people want to play Gemoji games.
Yeah, let's see what's going on in person, and then
Yeah, just let me know. I'm however y'all want to do it. Whatever we can do.